Oh, that's
He is the future. He is going to take this collaboration and ensure that it's sustained, even though Prof. Uli will be here. Now we own him. He's our professor. Now he's no longer at Aalen. So this is roughly where our collaboration is. We are already thinking of doing not a science park of like experiment, I don't know, something similar. It's like a young university for young scientists. And the Dean of Engineering has accepted the concept. The Dean of Health Sciences is supporting it. We are meeting with Dr. Conradi, but Prof. Uli and I are going to spearhead this and see that it's a project that happens. So naturally, Prof knows if something I initiate is at Welcome, it has at Bloemfontein, it has to be done at Welcome. So we are sensitizing, saying we're going to start a small project at Bloemfontein, and as it grows, we will then have our secondary one here. But it will also be nice, Prof, at some stage to take colleagues to Experino so that they can see this concept that we are speaking of and how it can spark interest in young children. You know, that's our pipeline, to have interest in the sciences and how the sciences work. I was there and I was like a child in there, just to see science, pure science, and how it applies to everyday life. So those are some of the achievements that we are having in the Aalen CUT sort of collaboration. So without wasting time, the program is changing because of, we are starting a little bit later on and some things are going to move backwards. I'm going to ask if you permit, my leaders, that we can stand at will and have snacks and tea and coffee once the water boils.
Yes.
And sit back and just have an engagement around there. Our program for today is, I'm going to hand over officially to Mepule to do our welcome to our guests. And then because we are starting backwards, the health break will just continue on, and colleagues that need to do a body break, they can go do a body break. And then we're going to then ask, after you speak, Mepule, and then Prof. Uli just to come speak and give us his reflection. He's been doing a lot of reflection for the past couple of days, his reflection of our collaboration. And then in this collaboration, I think colleagues saw it, there was a string of on-mails with webinars, and we were sending it out throughout the year from March, I think, until mid-September. This is the culmination of it. And I think, did we share the webinar page? It's in the bags. No, it's not. We will send it via email, but the webinars have, we call it a legacy booklet. So all the webinars, the abstracts, the dates, and what the webinars were about are in a booklet that's going to be on our website. So today, we are going to have one last presentation from Professor Lewis from PRAPS. He then also took the initiative to go to Aalen, and now he's collaborating there. So this presentation is just to showcase that it's possible across all fields that we can now take a more active role. So having more colleagues from our Welcome campus now taking the baton and moving on. And there's one request, Prof. Uli was only here for 2 hours the last time. He hasn't seen the campus, well, not a lot of it. He would like to see our campus and some of the facilities. And I said, Prof, I'll make sure my people will take care of you. So without wasting any time, Met Gloria Pule, please come and give us and welcome us officially. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm the acting Vice Chancellor and Principal, Prof. Ngowi, CET executives, members of Management Committee, present, faculty deans, assistant deans, HU deans, departmental managers, present, members of the Welcome Campus Management Committee, CUT staff members, students, stakeholders, our visitors, all of our distinguished guests, welcome. We are delighted to have you here at the Welcome Campus as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the partnership between CUT and Aalen University. Thank you for coming. The collaboration between the two universities enabled students and staff members in better understanding the different cultural dimensions between South Africa and Germany. And that the purpose was not only to complete the academic responsibilities, but embracing each other's cultural diversity. The most important questions for the students and staff have always been, how are you going to incorporate what you have learned in the betterment of our university and the societies and our countries? Again, sharing the advancing what they have learned in their respective disciplines. In that saying, I'm sure that the issue of language is one of the important factors that one can learn from each country. My understanding is that Germany is more advanced than South Africa, but again, that doesn't mean that they cannot learn one or two things from us. Welcome Campus is the only university campus in the northern corridors of the Free State, with a population of just under 6,000 students, which could continue to benefit from the partnership. We are a growing point for CUT, which can currently continue to contribute significantly to the partnership. Having participated in the very entrepreneurial board game, I can personally attest, yes, I can attest to the significance of this partnership, which shaped my career development. I believe continued development of similar initiatives can continue to better our CUT community and our country, especially in curbing the high rate of unemployment rate. We are honored to have the media, expert practitioners, entrepreneurs, business persons, scholars, inspirators, academics, who will share their wisdom with us. We are grateful that amid your busy schedule, you made time to spend the day with us. So prepare yourself to be challenged, motivated, and inspired. And as I hand over again, I think to Prof. Uli, as the program director alluded earlier, I want to say once more on behalf of Central University of Technology, welcome. It is a pleasure to have all of you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gloria. Prof. Uli? Thank you.
Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you, Ms. Gloria, for that introduction. Yeah, as you mentioned, some things happen just by incident, or let's say by chance. Some things give us a chance, and we must grab the opportunity and say, okay, here I am, here I do. In fact, I said I was here, welcome 10 years ago for 2 hours. That's not correct. We have been here on Saturday, but in an altitude of 2 kilometers, 2,000 meters. Also, one of the chances of the accidents, Stefan had contact in Potchefstroom with a glider factory, so we had the chance to come here and have some rounds over. Welcome. Yeah, so that's one of the chances. And the other one is, you mentioned, I'm interested in geology. Mathematician and mathematics, you know about stochastic processes, how life goes on. But that idea of the Vredefort dome, which you mentioned, comes from my interest in geology. And when I look at Welcome and at the deposits and the gold mines, it could also be a good place to hook on. You see that Vredefort dome that impacted 2 billion years ago, it brought up the gold-bearing layers. So last week we had a meeting at the Vredefort dome, and one of the geologists said, without that impact, you wouldn't be here. There would be no gold. There would be the same amount of gold, but 1,000 meters below the ground. Without that impact, you wouldn't find gold at the Windwasserstrand, you wouldn't find gold here in Welcome. So we can incorporate this. And you also mentioned that the first students who came here were from the Welcome campus. We were lucky to have them with us. They pioneered also for the other students. They made it also possible for our students to come to Bloemfontein in exchange. And I would be glad to send some students also to welcome to the campus, or to say we have students that are in Bloom and they can also hear for some of the lectures. So please send your students, and we will also see that we can send our students here. And then I will be visiting Welcome for several days also to see the golden mines and the campus, and all get in touch with all of the professors and lecturers. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to discuss in detail. But let me in brief present my university. Aalen University is the University of Applied Science, and yesterday the two VCs said that within the last 30 years we have gone the same way. We come from an Ingenieurschule, we have been Fachhochschule, now we are on a university level, and since several weeks we have also the right to run a PhD on our own. We have 5 faculties. The smallest one is chemistry. They are in exchange with Northwestern University. The next ones are computer science and electronics, mechatronics and optics. And then we have 2 big faculties, that's mechanical engineering and economics and management. So out of the 2,000 students, these 2 big faculties have almost, out of the 6,000 students, these 2 faculties have almost 2,000 students. And we, Steffen and I, come from the Department of Industrial Engineering, Industrial Management, and I always say we take the best of both worlds. We understand the engineers. He is an engineer. I have a background in operations research, but also work in industry and software industry. We understand the engineers, we understand the management. So that's a good point to connect. So whenever you want to send your students, and it's not clear maybe from the web page where can we send them, just give us an email, and we know both worlds, and I think that's a good start for connecting and for establishing a further students exchange. And I'm also glad that we have a student today with us who can report about his experiences, since sometimes the aerial view may be from 2,000 meters or maybe from the perspective of a professor is a little bit different from that, what people really experience here. So let's hear how this exchange goes from the point of view of the student. So I'm really looking forward for the next years, and as Refil mentioned, I will retire as a professor at the University of Aalen. I will stay in touch with the university, but I will not retire as an honorary professor at CUT. I have still 3 years to go, and I hope that we'll also have another 5 years after that to really stay in touch with CUT, to really stay in touch with you. And for the formal side, representing our university, we have Steffen, and I'm glad that you gave him also this warm welcome. And yesterday we have seen that our joint endeavor lasting 20 years will last at least 20 years more. So thanks a lot for your attendance, for your interest, and then I'm eager to hear the next parts. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Uzi. Thank you, Mepule, again. And Thank you, colleagues. Remember I said we are now moving the program upside down, putting it on its head. I'm going to ask David to come and give us what's your impression thus far. And he also participated in our Heritage Day, so it would be great to hear how his experience was with that. So please come to.
Should I just be speaking, or should I also have a PowerPoint going on?
If you have a PowerPoint, we can present it.
I mean, it's just to support my words with a few pictures, but maybe it's also interesting.
We would appreciate that. Thank you. Do you need a memory stick?
If it's okay, yeah, or otherwise, if it's too hectic now, I can also just be
A memory stick, I think, can.
Or can you use your one? Okay, there you go. When is the water boiling? Not yet.
Sorted by day.
Yeah, sorted by, go to date modified. There we go.
The others. We're talking about the other ones. It's uploaded. It's uploaded on this system. So if you see it already approved, then there's some data that's been considered from the header, that Excel spreadsheet onto the system. Yes. Yeah. So you just go continue on the system. No, it's no point. It's just for others that don't like
Presentation mode.
the students who are not in grade 12 this year, will be students who've already completed the degree. It's on this system. The ones that we include, in some instances, not in all, should have been in the majority of cases grade 12 last year. That wasn't like that. The merge presentations the daughter onto line.
All right. Thank you, David.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for hosting us today. We are really proud to be here. Just a few words to my personality. My name is David Kolowinski. I'm from Germany, and since 3 years now, I'm studying at the University of Aalen. So I'm doing my Bachelor of Science in Business Psychology. And in our 5th semester, we get the opportunity to travel the world and to go to different universities we have a partnership with, to study there and to explore how other cultures used to study and how the world can be really different. Yeah, this is why we came here, and maybe just to explain to you why I choose to come to South Africa. Where I study, I live together with a person. He actually grew up here in South Africa. He grew up in Joburg. His family is still living there. And when I met this person, I remember the first time I didn't even recognize that he's from somewhere else, because he was able to speak really good German. And his stories about this place here, the amazing landscapes, the stories about his school as well. He went to a school where people used to play rugby. Really inspired me to come here, and I was just fascinated by all these things. And then I decided to apply for the Central University of Technology in Bloemfontein. Luckily, they chose me, and I got the opportunity to come here. Even before my journey started, I got closely interacting with the person I really want to highlight here. It's Martina Moss. She's working for the international office. She always accompanied me with every challenge I have to face, with every obstacle during my way here. She was always supporting me, always giving me the feeling, David, whatever is coming towards us, we can do this together. And I remember this day when I received my visa for coming to South Africa. She instantly called me, and we were chatting on the phone, being really happy that the journey is starting now. And then after a short while, I got into the plane and flew into your amazing country. Yeah, when I came here, one of the first things I realized that people, as we could see before, are really interested in having connections all around the globe. And I think it's really important to learn from other cultures, to see how other people live, to see how other people study, to see what's important in their life. So I'm really closely interacting still with the Central Global for Engagement. Menzing is also from this department, and these people made me realize that wherever you go, you not only go there as a person, you also go there to represent where you come from. You represent your family, you represent kind of your culture, you also represent institutions you may be working with or working for. And when I come here, I realize people are really interested in asking me, why do I choose to come to South Africa? What do I like in this place? What do I think about Germany? And I always like to ask what they think about Germany. I mean, of course, you can imagine the information we get or the things we think about when it comes to certain topics, it really differs from the places around the world. Yeah, so probably you all know, South Africa is also known as the Rainbow Nation because we have a lot of influences from different cultures. I mean, you have 11 official languages and even more in the subcultures. You can see it has big influences from other parts of Africa. We still have influences from other parts of the world. People coming from everywhere to have a good life here. You have amazingly resources in your ground. You have beautiful landscapes. Probably Cape Town and Joburg are one of the most common places everybody knows in the world. And I think a lot of people would love to come to your country and see what it really is like. Because I think still in these days, not everybody knows how modern and how evolved your country actually is. Sometimes they confuse it and just have their stereotypes in the mind, but I think it's important to really go somewhere and experience for yourself what this country is about, to talk to the people and to really dive into different cultures to maybe become also part of them. So what is life on campus about? As Prof. Uli just said, of course, there's a difference between how students sees the exchanging programs and how a professor maybe sees the exchanging programs. I can just say when I arrived here in South Africa, of course, you always experience things different as they are at the end because you can't really know how it is. But when I came here, I was just amazed about how much the people care about me. A lot of people are asking me if I need help regarding sending documents somewhere. They are always there for me when there's a problem coming up. And the campus compared to our campus in Aalen, it's a little bit different, of course. So we have here this certain area. We also have the Welcome campus. We also have the campus in Bloemfontein, and it's like an area you can see, and it's not like spread apart in the city as we used to have in Aalen. I was actually really amazed how big your campus is, and sometimes it's even hard for me when you go around to realize, okay, this is all part of our campus here. That means, of course, you also meet a lot of different kind of people. You also meet people that are interested in different kind of things, when it comes to sport or when it comes to travel, for example. So I already met so many people with amazing stories, how they came to study, because as you can imagine, it's not everywhere in the world easy to get the access to education, and you will see here a lot of families who maybe suffered in generations before, so that they can give the chance to their kids to have a life where they can get access to a lot of education, so the family can get a benefit from this. Yeah, so you can't see it right now, but there's also a sign of Sasko there. I just wanted to symbolize it's also a lot about political activeness. For example, on the campus, this is why you will see people talking about important topics going on in the world. And this is what especially interests me. Sometimes you see what I think is in Europe or also in other countries, we talk a lot about what's going on in the media, for example, and people are really influenced by that. And of course, what's on the media in South Africa is really different to what's in the media in Germany. So it's always interesting to ask the people, what do you think about certain things going on in the world at this moment? And then it's also nice to just exchange the different thoughts and learn from each other. Yeah, so I already mentioned it before. Of course, for a European like we are, it's amazing to see your nature here. It's fascinating what kind of animals you have. It's even more fascinating that you can just go to the middle hill, for example. It's just around the corner, and then you can see the giraffes, you can see the zebras. You can name it. And for me, I will never. Sometimes it's hard for me to realize that it's actually true. I was just standing in front of a giraffe. It was just a few meters. And it was not in a zoo or something like this, it was in the wildlife. It's really nice to see how the wildlife integrates here, even to the city. When you stand up on the Neville Hill, you can see on the one side the whole city. It's really huge. People ask me, hey, David, do you think the city is small? And I was like, are you joking with me? Because where I come from, in my hometown, there live even less people than at CUT study. So when you see the city just, and you turn around and then there are the giraffes, the zebras, you even have a planetarium. In my opinion, this is really beautiful. Yes, so here just some of the things that probably will last in my memory forever. You mentioned it, I was able to take part at the Heritage Day. Here once more you can see it's different between the European and the South African culture, because I remember I was preparing food for the day. And then a lot of people helped me at my residence, and someone was asking me, hey David, what do you in Germany do for Heritage Day? And I thought of, and then I realized we don't even really celebrate this in this way. And so this is a day where we came together at campus at the soccer field, and people came together to represent different cultures of South Africa, and we especially, for example, different nationalities. So I was representing Germany, also some of the Dutch culture. This was another thing that came into my mind, because actually what for me is really normal, that I, for example, know that Germany and the Netherlands are different countries. This is not clear for everybody here in South Africa. They sometimes ask me if like Dutch is a part of Germany, or if Germany is a province or like a country. So there you can see there's still so many things we can learn from each other. And I remember when before the day started, we went shopping all together to get our groceries for preparing the food. And the CUT, as always, makes sure that when they organize something, they make sure that everybody is provided with enough resources to afford what we want to have. So we all went to the supermarket, and then I thought, whoa, we got this money. How should I even be able to spend this? It's way too much. After we get the groceries, I've been at the point where you have to pay, and then I realized, in my opinion, it's even too less food, but the money is already over. Then we came back. As I told you, a lot of people helped me preparing the food. I was thinking, okay, what is good to show as the German culture, and what came into my mind. I know you guys like to have a braai, and when we have a braai in Germany, we like to have the classical potato salad. Probably you know properly. And we also, in my family, we also like to have the tomato salad, so there you can see it's a lot about vegetables, for example. I remember I was coming to the campus with my groceries bags. People were asking me, hey David, where's your meat, man? Where's your meat? Guys, I'm sorry, I know you love the meat. I just prepared some sausages. For example, we like to have the sausage potato salad. We also used to have the mustard and the ketchup. I realized you guys are sometimes, you just like to eat things raw, and we always have to add some sauce, we always have to eat the pepper and the salt. And then the next day, when Heritage Day was taking place, it was a Friday. I know you celebrate on the Saturday, and we were preparing our little stores, like we had to decorate it, we had some German flags, also Dutch flag, we had some balloons, and we also had the food. And I remember this moment, we just wanted to decorate the table. People were already going around the place, and there was this 1 second, I just opened the pot where the potato salad was in, and then it was, in my opinion, it was just 1,000 people coming out of nowhere, standing immediately in front of me, and I wasn't able to even handle everything. You were just giving me the plates and like, okay, give me more, and I think it was like maybe 3 minutes, something like this. The whole pot I created for over more than 3 hours together with a lot of people was just gone because everybody wanted to taste it. And it was, I remember it was taken like this, and I was like, hey guys, maybe you can make a row of 4, and then the next person behind, and they were just, yeah, we do it, take my plate. But you could see it was a lot of fun, people laughing all around, of course, taking pictures, and people asking me questions about how the German culture is, they really wanted to learn something. And I was just glad to celebrate this day, but when I think of it, in my memory, it was just crazy, and there was a lot of preparing, and then after just a few minutes, people liked the food so much that it was gone, but I was happy about that. This is way better than preparing something and nobody wants to eat it. But also it was really nice for me because you could walk around, and I remember we were also able to try some fried insects, for example. This is not a common food in Europe. And another thing I realized, especially talking to you, Metzing, there's a difference between what kind of, apart from the animals we eat, for example. I know you guys love the insides of the animal. Metzing was asking me, hey David, what is your favorite inside of the animal? And I was like, I don't want to offend you, but I prefer the normal steak. Exactly. So, I mentioned it before, but I love this when I walk through the streets in Bloemfontein. There are so many little stores where you can just have a dry, you can buy this delicious meat. It's always good to just go around the corner. There are so many different options what you want to have. I didn't expect it before I came here, but you have so many different food places. And as I told you before, it's always about the meat. In Germany, I try to reduce my meat consumption, but when I came here, I can't avoid it. I have to have this delicious meat. Another thing that was really nice to me is we had a soccer tournament. I think it's almost 3 weeks ago, and luckily I was also able to take part in it. People asked me if I want to join the team for that day. I didn't really know what I expect. People always say, hey, you in Germany, you're really good soccer players, what else? Then I came to the field, the first thing I noticed, usually there are few people in the soccer stadium, so you see the people playing and a few friends or whatever supporting them. But on this day, the whole field, it was completely crowded. Sometimes there were areas you couldn't even move. You were like, oh, sorry, I don't want to disturb you, because it was really crowded. And when we were warming up our soccer team, Germany, you just warm up, everybody is quiet. I remember the soccer club I used to play for, it was even not allowed to talk, otherwise you had to do some push-ups or whatever. Remember, we were warming up, running down, and we were singing songs, like to the movements, you know. And it was not only us singing the songs, it was also our supportive group. People all over the place just shouting and singing the songs together before we went to the place to play. We were standing in front of our fans and singing a song, like an anthem, you can imagine. And then the match started, and after a while the coach decided to bring me up to the field, and this is probably something I will never forget. When I came up to the field, maybe it's just in my memory like this, but I remember the whole stadium was just shouting. There's a nickname, they call me, for example, Martinez, and the whole stadium was shouting, Martinez. Probably you know this it was, for me, it was amazing to see, like, I was, just when I was passing the ball, the whole stadium was, oh, he's doing a move, whatever. So they could see people really support you. They didn't even know me, they didn't even, maybe haven't seen me before, but they were happy that I play with them. I was so happy that they are happy to play with me. Immediately after the match, you had music going on, people dancing all over the place, people coming, bringing a lot of food. Everybody is sharing everything with everybody. You will share the drinks, you will share the food. people again asking me where I come from, wanted to hear my experiences so far here in South Africa. I was so glad that everybody was just in a really nice mood. We were able to listen to really great music, enjoy the food, having the soccer tournament, and then even our team won the tournament, and I think it was a beautiful day. So here, this picture, I think you can all see where I've been to. It was in Kimberley at the big hall. I was there together with a group of 6 girls from the Netherlands. They are also here at this moment doing their internships, also related to the CFT, but they are working at the hospitals at this moment. As you can see here, I'm pretty happy because being here in your country just makes me laughing all the time. When people ask me, sometimes I even had situations where people ask like, hey, why do you decide to come to South Africa? It sounds like they think it was a bad decision, but I always can respond, so far it's the best time of my life, and I think I can live from this memories my whole life. And I'm just really glad to be able to be here with you guys, to share my experiences so far. And yeah, this is the reason why we came here all together, because we want to celebrate the 20th anniversary of our partnership program. And thank you so much for your attention. I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy.
Thank you so much, David. You are having fun.
No, definitely.
You are having fun.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. How we nice. Oh, okay. The program is shifting up just a bit. Prof. Lewis is he's on. We're going to now hear a presentation from Professor Lewis, who we shifted his presentation. He was supposed to participate in the webinar series, but then we thought it would be better that he participates here. Prof. Lewis, are you on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Refilwe. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You can start your presentation, Prof.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share with you. What I'm going to do, Refilwe, is to just briefly show myself and say hello. And then I'm going to just say hello to everyone. Hi, everyone. Hello there in good to see you. Good to see you, everyone. I'm just going to switch off again because we have load shedding here. It started at 10 o'clock. That's bad timing. And I thought that I may be more audible if I switch off the video. Colleagues, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to share my screen very briefly. Okay, colleagues, can you see my screen? Everybody seeing my screen? Refilwe, colleagues, can you see my screen?
Yes, we see it.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, thank you. It was so nice to listen to the previous speaker, because, you know, I've been born and bred in the Free State, and sometimes in South Africa, we tend to not see the things of our country that other people find so intriguing. And it's so good to hear and to listen to colleagues from abroad. And every time that I attend a conference, it was the same 2 weeks ago when I went to Aalen, and talk about South Africa, all of them will say, wow, I really look so much forward to visiting your university and visiting your institution and visiting your country. And it's really everywhere that I've traveled in the world, people have always said, I really look so forward to visiting South Africa. And I think that's something for us to be proud of. Thank you for the opportunity, Refilwe. I'm going to be fairly quick. My presentation today is about universities in a disruptive environment. And I'm going to, I think, just also keep it a little bit lighthearted, seeing that the previous speaker was quite lighthearted. I don't want to put it too seriously. I was in Aalen about 3 weeks ago, visited Prof. Uli Holzbauer there and Prof. Dirk Vlotman. Visited the analytical laboratory, was very impressed with the environment, very impressed with the university, and a really warm welcome. Thank you, Prof. Holzbauer, and in his absence, Prof. Vlotman, for your warm welcome and hosting that side. So today I'm going to speak a little bit about environments that's difficult. And we may want to acknowledge that the environments the last few years was not maybe the most conducive that one can have. And the reason being that we had the COVID, we've got other incidences, and I want us to talk a little bit about that. It's called, and if you look into literature, it's called VUCA environments, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And that's just a very nice word for talking about environments that's difficult and how do we treat those environments. And I'm going to share a little bit of my experience in the food sector with regard to that. So colleagues, and the previous speaker, I thought let me start with this slide. Let me explain a little bit what our research group is about. So we brew some beer. And if you wanted to taste some beer, you're welcome to come, and it will all be for free. And the reason is, of course, that we don't call it drinking beer, we call it doing research. So on a lighter note, so our research group, the Center for Applied Food Sustainability and Biotechnology, I will just show you what we do in a moment. But I thought let me just start with this slide. I think we're also going to have a little bit of a taste tomorrow with Prof. Holzbauer. Looking forward to that. So this is our center, the Center for Applied Food Sustainability and Biotechnology. We've got quite a variety of activities that we do. We also present the Beer and Food Affair every year, which we're very proud of, and the InterVarsity, the Beer Brewing InterVarsity, where all the universities come together every year, and on our campus at our hotel school. And we've got this wonderful opportunity to engage with them and to take the lead as an institution. All of them is visiting CUT. And what we're also proud of is that we actually won quite a number of awards in the past, our brewing team. Currently, we're in the busy commercializing this, so we're looking forward to that. Our research group, briefly, Refillway and colleagues, just for our people listening in, we have different aspects that we concentrate on. Novel fermentations is the one that the brewing falls under. We also do some local fermentations in the South African narrative, commercialization of Mkomboti, Mabele, some of those products, and we also do other work. The yellow circle here relates to the component that I work on, which is food safety cultures and behaviors. And that relates to the narrative of the human construct, the human aspect of food safety and of food security, which is a strange combination, combination of variables, because it's not often that you can compare microbiology and food science with the human aspect, but we're going to explore this a little bit later as we go along. So, ladies and gentlemen, we in the food sector, in the food safety sector, I'm going to start with food safety and then pull it through to higher education a little bit. The food sector is a very compliant-driven industry. Lots of rules, lots of regulations, checks and balances. And the poor colleagues in the food industry, especially the mid and smaller informal organizations, really struggle to comply to all of these requirements. And for a good thing, because of course we all need safe food, and we need to know that there's conformance to processes and systems for that. And there's, of course, many reasons to do that. The organizations want to stay viable. They don't want to be taken to court. They want to grow, they want to mitigate risk, and they want to also care for their customers and work in a conducive environment. But in the red there below, we don't often see this from the top management in the food industry. For the top management in food industry, it's only about making money and staying out of trouble. So the safety aspect, occupational health and safety, and many other safety aspects like food safety, for example, this is one of those things that they really don't want to pay too much attention to. They appoint a QC or a safety manager, and that person is responsible for keeping them out of trouble and complying. And for the rest, they just want to get on with the job. and more we have seen in the food industry that this may have bad results if you do it like this. And we're going to get around to why we say that. So I just spoke about the very regulated food safety environment. So there's some of just the different documents and safety requirements and conformancies that food industries need to have if they want to supply. There's on the left side, there's the BRC, called the British Retail Consortium. There's the FSSC requirements. There's the GFSI requirements. Some countries have got their own requirements. And then in South Africa, we've got the Regulation 638, which is also very comprehensive. And we've got the certificates of acceptability. We've got the environmental health practitioners visiting all these factories and establishments. So it's a huge compliance-driven discipline. That's the food industry. And this is what we've learned and what we've started to also cover in the food safety realm. And that is what about the people that also work in the food industry? People that stand for hours on end, day after day, hour after hour, year after year, and do a lot of often very boring work. Now, the question would be, why do you want to look after these individuals? Because that is the role of unions or the role of HR. But the fact is that every person working in an organization contributes to the performance of that organization. And if these individuals know that they are part of a bigger team, a bigger organizational culture that is compassionate about the safety of their consumers and the safety of their clients, then it's highly likely that they will conform beyond only having to comply. For example, if somebody sees something lying on the ground, something maybe spoiling, something rotten, they will pick it up or they will report it even beyond their own job function, because that is the way that we do things in this organization. So that is what food safety culture is basically about. It's about the human aspect. And in this slide, the chain represents all the policies and processes and systems and compliance and bureaucracy. But it's all being kept together by the human, by the individual. And if the human breaks, or if the human is not looked after, then the rest of the chain can be as strong as you want. The whole process will fall apart. I'm going to later in my presentation refer a little bit to higher education as well, and to bring through some of the lessons learned in the food industry also to higher education, because I think we can relate to some of these. So there's been a lot written, but it's a very specific group internationally that works on this. But this is very nicely put by an author called Frank Janas. He wrote a book on this. Frank Janas is also the head of food safety in the entire Walmart group international. So you can imagine if he looks into this, this is really, or if he underwrites this, it really makes sense. So he says ensuring food safety, that can be any activity for that matter, beyond only regulatory inspections, testing, and training, requires a better understanding of organizational culture and human dimensions. Colleagues, and this also is important for us in our universities and our institutions. We also have a lot of compliance activities as lecturers, as professors, a lot of documents that we need to submit, a lot of policies and processes that we need to abide by too. So beyond those, there's also very important to look at your organizational culture and your human dimensions, because this is what keeps that chain together. In the food safety industry, one of our leading publishers, Chris Griffith, he was also a co-supervisor on one of my postgrad students on this project, showed it like that. He talked about management systems and processes on the left-hand side, and that the red one is all about the human factor: leadership, communication, commitment, environment, risk, and so forth. And that leads at the end of the day to performance. So performance does not equal compliance. There's something beyond compliance, and that's the aspect of the human. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, Refuwe and colleagues. This is simply relates to some of the literature that's written that one can look out there in authoritative literature about how important culture is, food safety culture, in ensuring safe food specifically. So I wanted to talk a little bit today, colleagues, about leadership and the role of leadership in establishing an organizational culture, with some lessons that we've learned from the food sector. And the fact is that you've seen that I've used there the word the or a, but leadership is probably the most important determinant of organizational culture. It plays a huge role. That is unequivocally true. So let's look a little bit into leadership specifically as a determinant of organizational culture. So as you may know, colleagues, those of you that studied in the human sciences, I didn't study in the human sciences. I studied food science and I studied microbiology. So what I've learned is really applicable in the food industry, and we can just extrapolate it. But there's a number of things or constructs, as we call them, that determines behavior. Emotion determine behavior, needs determine behavior, knowledge, competency, personality, environment, and consequence. A lot of things that determine behavior. Organizational culture there on the top left is a big determinant of behavior. But all of these constructs are very closely linked with leadership and leadership of the organization. And here I'm referring not to one or two people, I'm referring to leadership as a collective on different line management levels. They all have a very big say and big control on all those constructs that determines behavior. And that is why we say organizational culture, your environment, establishing your environment, these are very closely, all of them, dependent on and linked to the leadership of the organization. So I wanted to talk a little bit, Chairperson Refilwe, a little bit about my title theme for today, which about what we call VUCA, that I mentioned already, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environments, which is of course not a normal environment, a normal laid-back environment, or maybe the word normal is not the right one. Of course, and we'll all agree, colleagues, that the last 3 years was not normal. It was not the norm, if I can call it that. It was definitely volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environments. We've seen this with COVID-19. I don't even have to go into that. We've seen it with certain political issues and risks and dangers that we see emerging. So we've definitely been in a VUCA environment in the last 3 or 4 years. In the food sector, that's also played a big role. COVID-19, for example, disrupted the national food supply chain, especially the vulnerable and the poor struggled. For example, the school feeding schemes was terminated at the time. You can imagine the impact with that. Especially the poor, the malnourished, those with comorbidities. Feeding schemes were halted. There was an implosion of food markets, purchasing power went down, and with that, malnutrition and food insecurity. So the last few years in the food environment definitely seen, with regard to COVID, a lot of disruptions. We're seeing the same now with certain political things that's happening. And globally, that supply and demand, the price of goods are increasing. So it's definitely a VUCA environment that we have. So I want to talk to you about a specific VUCA environment that occurred in the food safety sector, colleagues. I'm not sure if you can remember that about 3 years ago, you couldn't eat bologna. And that was really in the food sector, a big VUCA environment in South Africa. There was the listeriosis outbreak of 2017, 2018. There was about beyond 200 people that passed away from this disease in South Africa, most of them toddlers or smaller children, but also adults. And that was a big issue in our country. And everywhere in us as a food safety sector, we focused on this and started talking about this. I was also still am fortunate to act on some of the advisory committees of the legal aspects currently continuing, and it's really very interesting to look at the consequences of this event. So I'm going to share with you, Refilwe colleagues, a little bit about how this was handled in the food industry. And I'm going to show specifically 2 case studies. And let's then end this discussion with maybe, a few discussions about what we are doing as higher education if we are, as higher education, confronted with the same challenges. So, of course, what one needs to understand in the food sector is that although you can comply, and again, this refers back to what I said about compliance versus performance. You can comply to all the regulations, but if there's a challenging situation presenting itself, just complying will not keep you out of trouble, because all compliance systems, all rules and regulations are always meant just to do the minimum. You still need to apply your own mind beyond that. And here I've just shown, a picture of a mountain pass with a speed limit of 60 kilometers an hour. That's the speed limit in South Africa. And of course, you can see that if it is a very nice day, it hasn't snowed, it's the middle of the day, 60 kilometers an hour, which is the rule or the law, may feel too slow. You'll be irritated maybe. Why do I need to drive so slowly? But at night maybe, or when there's ice on the road, or when it has snowed, then 60 kilometers an hour becomes very treacherous, and it may be actually too fast. And you'll have to apply your own mind to maybe say, no, I now need to travel 40 or 20 kilometers an hour to get safe to the other side. So all regulations and laws need to be seen in context, and every person needs to still apply their minds about where their responsibility lies. So this, in the food sector, this is also important. The Food Protection Act, the Consumer Protection Act, ladies and gentlemen, actually says that if somebody gets sick from a food source that they've eaten, you really get sick, you get diarrhea, you want to take this further, formalize it legally, then you see the left, on the left-hand side, there's the channel that says liability. That means if it's proven that you've picked up the bug or the organism at a specific facility, then they are liable. But on the other side, if you don't know, if you cannot prove exactly where the risk came from, then the law says they are looking into a balance of probabilities, and they're looking at comparative liability. And that means they go beyond only the minimum requirements, and they look how responsive and how compassionate and how hardworking and how committed the organization was on the broader context to make sure that their clients or their consumers have not gotten sick. And this is where leadership plays a big role, not just to concentrate in all factors, also higher education, on the minimum requirement and just to tick the boxes, but those aspects that's beyond just the minimum requirement, and that relates to the human factor. Chair, I want to quickly talk to you about two case studies at the time, and that was and this relates again to the way that leadership handled the situation. And I'll bring this again back, as I said, to many different environments. And there was an outbreak of listeriosis in Canada in 2008. There was 20 people that passed away. And this CEO of this company's name was Michael McCain. And what he's done is he very quickly went onto the media, and he became the main spokesperson for this crisis. He apologized, he was empathetic, and he said, this is a tragedy that really happened, and he really took ownership of this activity. He actually said a very interesting thing that we're still using in organizational culture and food safety culture today. He said, because he said, the two advisors that I've paid no attention to is the lawyers and the accountants. What he actually meant by that is that when they sat in a management boardroom and the lawyers and the accountants said to him, this you shouldn't do, that you shouldn't do, then he said, look, I'm looking after my consumers and my customers and my people first. That's what he means in this, what he said. The last people I listen to is the lawyers and the accountants. Of course, you need to see that in context. McCain didn't just apologize just because he had been pushed into a corner, but he took the initiative and acted with speed. So this was, and they confessed and they took ownership. If you look in case study 2, what happened in the Tiger Brands situation in South Africa, there the CEO, Lawrence McDougall, and this is not only my comments, this was taken from literature and from newspapers, what I've said here. There was 80 people dead at the time, about 10 times more than the one in Canada that I just mentioned. And here's some of his responses when asked about what does he think. He said, we are taking precautions to protect our consumers, okay, taking note. And then a denial. There is no direct link with the deaths or our projects that we are waiting of at this point, nothing. So the denial aspect, not taking ownership of this, but rather pushing the liability away. Second one, our products have continually tested below. Again, excuses. I cannot remember if, and there again, looking at the data, still denying that the responsibility lies with them. So a lot of things where the leadership in this regard did not take ownership, did not show compassion, but rather denied liability. A totally different, and let's look at how the media, how the media responded. This was on Times Live here on the left-hand side. This is the McDougall gentleman who was the CEO at the time, and the title of this screen grab from Times Live is "Tiger Brands Downplays the Listeria Effect." They use the word downplay. There's another by EWN. Tiger Brand refuses to take blame for listeriosis deaths. So again, you can see that the media, the people out there immediately picked up that there's not compassion, there's not accountability, there's not ownership, and put that in the media out there. So this is a nice case study, just very briefly. So food safety culture as a science has developed quite a lot meanwhile. And even if we attend conferences now, there's subsections specifically related to organizational culture, specifically related to food science, that we as a center at CUT are playing a leading role nationally and internationally. So let's look at higher education briefly, Refilwe and colleagues, and see if there's some parallels that we can draw. And my question would be, tongue in the cheek, is there a listeriosis outbreak in South African higher education? Maybe that's put a little bit strongly, but if you look at some of these slides, maybe you can see it in another way. The fight for free education. There's some photos, pictures of our institution at the time, and we can even see some of our academic colleagues taking a stance and saying, we need to care. This is a process that we need to enter into, and we need to manage this. And I think also we should probably spare a thought for our leadership and higher education in South Africa. For the last 2 or 3 years, it was not easy there to manage this difficult time. But let's talk a little bit about how management can maybe learn from industry in how to approach some of these VUCA environments. I think the first is, and I'm very mindful of the time, I should be done in 5 minutes, is what can we then learn from what happened in the food industry and maybe apply it to some difficult situations that we may sometimes have in higher education. And this higher education also currently probably relates to those education institutions abroad, seeing that there's some political red flags that we are seeing going up. And I think the first that we need to acknowledge is that when we look at leadership, when we look at organizational culture, we need to work with authentic information. People often go into an organization, attend an organization, spend some time there, and make a little bit of a maybe a superficial assumption about what the university or the food industry or whatever the organization may be is like. And we've done this at CUT a few times. I think we're going to do it again. I look forward to that, is to do a very in-depth organizational culture survey to make sure that the information that one gets about where the organizational culture is, that this is authentic and reliable and trustworthy. We are doing a lot of this in food industries nowadays. From our research group side, there's some of our students doing such surveys now. We're currently working with SPAR, the National SPAR, National, the entire SPAR group, to look at their organizational food safety culture. We're working with Montague Foods, we're working with the Premier Group, we're working with the Lipstar Group, we're working with many dairies to look specifically at their organizational culture. But as I said, that needs to be well measured with a system that is watertight in terms of research assessment systems, that looks at representative samples and looks at questions that are that really make sure that the validity and reliability of the information is correct. For example, if you have an interview with a focus group interview or a one-on-one interview in an organization, somebody may say they are unhappy about their leadership or their management, or they are underpaid, or whatever it may be. But you only can put that into context if you've done a quantitative survey as well, because then maybe you'll see that there's only 1 or 2% of the people that feel that way. And if you then respond to only a data of an organizational culture that may be skewed, then your interventions will be not targeted and it will be worth nothing. So we've seen this in the food safety culture industry, is that you need to make sure your measurement, your metrics are really effective, that you measure what you set out to measure, and that your interventions relates to what you found. You cannot just make an assumption based on a superficial evaluation of an environment. So to conclude, Refilwe, and leadership and culture in any organization, in the food industry, and also in higher education and in other industries, because you can extrapolate it to most other organizational culture environments. What should we look at to promote? In the old Greek literature, they talked about ethos, logos, and pathos, where ethos refers to leadership that needs to be ethical, logos to logic, and pathos to empathetic leadership, which is actually easy to understand. Be ethical, be logical, and be empathetic. Have empathy towards your staff, have empathy towards your client. And then literature suggests, especially in environments that's difficult, like what we are experiencing now in South Africa and internationally, is how do you counter then these different VUCA environments? The first is, if you have a volatile environment, you must make sure that you have a clear vision. We currently is working hard on the 2030 vision for the CUT, which I think really is a very good thing, so that we are all aligned to where we go as an institution. Meet uncertainty with understanding, and understanding often also relates to compassion, to humanity, to make sure that there is not necessarily a divide between leadership and management and the rest of staff, but there's an understanding and a compassion and a trust narrative amongst staff members. Very important, because that takes the uncertainty away and gives you certainty. You can know that you can trust your employer for certain things, and your employer knows that he can trust you as a worker for certain things, and that is countering the uncertainty. The fourth is to react to complexity with clarity. Refilwe colleagues, this relates very strongly and directly with communication. Communication, transparency, and information sharing. In complex environments where people are uncertain about where they're going, they're seeing environments that's changing, there's risks, you need to make sure that your communication is updated, is transparent, and is not only specified for certain ears, because then the other people may think, but why am I not privy to that information? What are people keeping away from me? Why haven't I been part of that information and decisions that was made? So clarity and transparency, very important. And then the last, how do we then tackle ambiguity? We do this with agility. And with that, we say that no organization should be resistant to change, resistant to transformation, but they should be agile. They should not be intimidated by change, because often we see colleagues, we see people sitting only and saying, I'm now at risk, or I think it's a risky environment. I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to say nothing out of my field, because then I'm at risk. And that makes that the institution is becoming lethargic and resistant to change. And we've seen this with for example, Montague Foods, where we worked, where there was two sections that merged. The one was a family business and the other one was a national business, and the two merged. And in one of the businesses was a family business where the head of the family was very resistant to change. It started up as a family entity, did not want to change anything because it's been done like that for 20, 30, 40 years. And the other side of the organization was, agile. They wanted to change. They was responsive. They was agile. They wanted to move. And the organizational culture that we measured was much better in the part where the organization was seen as younger and more agile than rather not wanting to change. So that plays a big role. Littlefield colleagues, thank you so much for the opportunity. My attempt was today to share with you some of the lessons we've learned in food safety culture and to draw some parallels between the broader organizational context in environments where that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Thank you, Littlefield and colleagues.
Thank you, Professor Lewis. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Thank you for the presentation and the new knowledge that you have given us about food safety. I think now we'll be more careful and aware of what we consume.
Yes.
Colleagues, I'm going to ask that, can we have tea for 15 minutes and then we'll finish off with Osmaraka. Okay, all right. Can we please have tea? And then we will convene again at 11:45. There's a fire outside. Oh, okay. Let's have tea, colleagues, and then we'll convene again at 15 minutes. Okay. Lisa. Is there an extra fee?
Ke o a reng mme wa hae ha tsebe hore o exclude for what?
Oh, so we're going to ask Ms. Marakane Ferrer to come and present her perspective on internationalization, the student-centered approach. She will share her experiences and also just to show mobility does not end with you going on mobility and then you leave the university. She went on mobility and now she is a lecturer at the university. So there is retention and there is sustainability. Over to you, Maraka.
Okay, good afternoon. Is it right to say afternoon or
8 minutes before.
8 minutes before. Oh, okay, all right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maraka Lefera, and I am a lecturer in human resource management, and I work here at Welcome Campus. And welcome, and hope you had a lovely time in our campus so far. So, just to give a background, from the 28th of June in 2017 to the 28th of September, I was offered an opportunity to go on a student exchange program in Ravensburg at Dual University. So I'm giving a little bit different approach compared to Aalen now. Then the first weekend, we arrived on Thursday. Then on Friday, it was our orientation. Then the Saturday, we were welcomed at the Baden-Württemberg Summer Festival. So Baden-Württemberg was the scholarship that we got to study in Germany for 3 months. And by then, I was still a student and doing my master's. So the first weekend, we were invited to the Baden-Württemberg Scholarship Summer Festival, which took place on the 1st of July in Zeppelin University. So Zeppelin University is a little bit far from Ravensburg. It's another town. And by that time, we were still new and trying to find our way around the city or the area or the region. And I remember we thought it's just next door, we thought it was just the area, and we had to ask. And the nice thing that I would applaud Germany about is the fact that information is always available and you won't even get lost, even if you don't know the area. So we're fortunate then to ask around, and even the signpost, we took a train and went to the university and we had fun. So before we came to Germany, we were already invited to this summer festival, and we were asked to present an item. And the item that I presented was a dance. So the dance was the world's greatest, and everyone, if you see the picture, everyone you'll be asked, okay, where are you from? I'm from South Africa. And so what are you presenting today? Then I'm like, no, we'll be presenting the world's greatest. So over there in that picture, that's when I was asked actually what item am I going to be presenting, and also sharing the culture and the backgrounds in terms of the South African context. And through the scholarship summer festival, it's a good platform for us to meet with other students from different countries in terms of and share our experiences, and also network with one another. And through this, it's where we create friendships, where we network, and also we learn from each other in terms of the countries that we are from, and create global friendship. And today I've got friends all over the world now because of such platforms. Then actually me going for an exchange student as a master student, then it gave me an opportunity to even work on my thesis by that time, because I was now a full-time student who is more focused on her studies, and together with the studies that I had to take in Ravensburg, and these are the modules that I took, which is the corporate management, human resource, international marketing, and international management and intercultural management. Through this, we learn a lot, especially in terms of globalization, in terms of internationalization, and also to be cultural competent. And I enjoyed the models, and I learned a lot from different classes, and some of the lecturers had guest lectures from the industry and also from other countries. And through that, we learned about different perspectives in terms of what is happening in Turkey, what is happening in Morocco, and at the same time, we'll compare it within the South African context. So in that way, it makes one to be open-minded and to be willing to learn about other cultures, and not just only be stereotyped and focuses on South African context, and at the end of the day, through this experience, it's also contributing to my teaching and learning practices to date, because I'm not just giving my students a South African context information, but I'm able to give them the global context whenever I'm teaching, and at the same time, sharing my travel or my international experience with my students. It's also inspired them to even be global citizen. Like, for example, one of my students that I taught in 2018, after the exchange program, in 2018, I was now a part-time lecturer, and I was telling my students about the exchange experience all the time, or whenever I give examples in class, I'll be saying, but in Germany, this is how it's done, So this other day, they were even imitating me. Ma'am, so how do they do it in Germany? So now, because every time whenever I'll be giving you an example, then ma'am, so tell us, how are they doing in Germany? So really, it showed that whatever that you're sharing with your student, at some point it made an impact. So this year, one of my students that I taught in their first year in 2018 was afforded an opportunity to go for an exchange program. And since then, she has been, from 2018, she has been telling me that, ma'am, I want to go for an exchange. And this year, when I saw her going for an exchange, I was so happy. And it showed that really my experiences had an impact in her career or in her teaching and learning journey. Then, as I've indicated, we have made more friends. As much as it is a learning, we are there with academics, but at the same time, we still have to have fun and network, which is also a social need, and to explore the area, because I believe you won't be open-minded if you're just going to school and then coming back to your residence and not exploring the country. So during the weekends, if we are not busy, I went with one of the students from CUT also. During the weekend, we'll travel to other cities and countries and explore with a train or with a bus. And we also went to Belgium, and Belgium was quite amazing, because every street in Belgium, you will find sweets, like sweet shops, and you're like, €1, €2, €3, and you will just get them, and and different tastes of sweets, and everyone knows when you're from Belgium, you have to at least bring them a box of sweets, as a souvenir. So, because it's really amazing how nice and delicious those chocolates are. And I was also fortunate to travel to Munich to the world's biggest festival, which is Oktoberfest, and when you move from a small town like Ravensburg, and then you go to the city, like such as Munich, you experience a culture shock, because everyone there, it's so like it's like you're moving from from another town to another city. They were so welcoming, or is it because it was quite a diverse environment, because people from other countries also join the festival, and we also learn about German culture and the beer and how it's done and so on. Germany, there are so many types of beers, and unfortunately I couldn't taste one because I don't drink, but I just observed there are so many beers, and it's one of their culture's pride. Then my whole experience as a student at Dual University, it was quite smooth, and the international staff were quite welcoming and friendly, and I believe David is also experiencing the same here, as he has indicated earlier in his presentation. And sometimes one will be homesick. It happens. But I would remind myself about the opportunity that I've been granted, because even going for an exchange, it's an opportunity, because some other students wanted the opportunity, but I was so fortunate that I was granted, and I wouldn't, in terms of homesick, it won't take that long. Then, luckily we have technology and 24-hour Wi-Fi, so we will connect with the family and friends back home. Then from my exchange program, I've learned to appreciate one's background, because through exchange, we are quite diverse. Even the students that we are with in terms of exchange, or the ones that we are attending in class with, it's quite diverse. We are from different countries, different backgrounds, and we learn from one another. And sometimes when you learn about the situations from other people's countries, then you look at yourself and you reflect and say, you know what, I am fortunate, So then that's one of the key messages I took from the exchange, is that I should be appreciative, and I should be grateful for every opportunity that is granted to me, and also acknowledge the differences. It's very important that we embrace the differences, because as people, unfortunately, we are different, and through diversity, we learn a lot. That's where innovations come in also. And going for exchange, you also leave your comfort zone. I remember Refile that year. She's like, Malaka, you guys will just go to the airport. Here are your train tickets, and here are your flight tickets. So this is your itinerary, and it's just the two of you. And you're wondering, okay, what am I gonna do when I get to the airport? And how am I even gonna get a train from Zurich to Ravensburg? And you're like, no, you can go. So by that time, and you're just worried, but you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. And you can't be scared. Yeah, you just have to leave your comfort zone and go to unfamiliar places, because through unfamiliar places, that's where you grow, and that's where you learn and you become independent at the end of the day. And today I can go anywhere, on my own. Just give me a flight ticket and I can go. I'm not scared. Yeah. So that's one of the.
So I helped you.
I
helped you.
Thank you, Refile. Because sometimes when you're used to travel with a group, you become dependent on them. I like having to travel alone. So when you're traveling alone, you become more independent. Then it's also one of the lessons that I took from this exchange experience. It's the difference between people and cultures make life more interesting. And I have so much fun learning about other students from different countries and what makes them who they are. Every time I remember one student that we were in class, every time she would tell us about China. We'll hear China throughout, no, but in China, this is not how it's done. Then we're like, okay, now it's high time also we tell people about our countries now, and say, no, in SA, this is not how it's done, or in Zim, this is not how it's done, so it's, sometimes we'll even debate about our differences. I remember, and also it's very important that you know a lot about your country, because someone else knows a lot about your country compared to you. I remember one of the modules, one student said she was from Durban, and she's like, in South Africa, where it's hot throughout the year, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's hot throughout the year. Then this student from China is like, Morocco, in South Africa, is it hot throughout the year? But this is not what it's telling me here, because technology also plays a big role. Then in some modules in some of the classes that we were in, I had to shift that out. I had to correct her in a diplomatic manner, not in a way that's saying, no, she's lying, but I was saying, like this individual who's from Durban, us from the central region where we have got 4 seasons throughout the year, so it's also very important that we get to know about our country. Then in conclusion, going for student exchange was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And I've had a wonderful and new exciting experience and have seen more places during my time as a university student that I could have ever imagined. Because I made friends, global friendship, I got to travel, and I've also made most incredible friends during my time in Germany and met so many truly extraordinary people. And that it led me to be a global citizen today, and I'm leaving my footprints all over the world. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Maraka. And thank you for correcting her. Devon is warm all year round, but they still have the 4 seasons.
Yes.
So, colleagues, I think this is the end of our program. Now, we had a request, and I don't like doing this, putting people on the spot. But can I ask from you what you are comfortable with? Because I know you have a commitment at 2. Do you think we can do a walkabout on campus while they're going to prep our lunch, and then come back and have lunch, and then you may be excused at 2, and then we'll also go back to Bloemfontein? Yes. Okay, thank you, Mepu. So colleagues, I think it's becoming more and more apparent that I'm very passionate about Velcom. I always joke in my office and say, you can send me to Velcom, I'll gladly go. Just send me there and tell me what I need to do. It has been a long journey, and when we started the preparation for the Aalen celebration, I remember insisting that we are going to have a program. And already I think, is it last year or early this year, I told Mepule and Prof. Makola, we are coming to Velcom for the Aalen thing, so just beware. And then when we started preparing, they already were sensitized and they knew. But one was not only just to check a box and say I had an activity in Velcom, or that we brought guests over in Velcom. It was also to validify and solidify the role that the Velcom campus plays in internationalization. I did mention that when I started, the bulk of the students that went to mobility are from the Velcom campus. Some also spend time at Aalen University, and some spend it at other partner universities. And when you track them, I track them on Facebook, I always ask them, please send me a friend request so I can check you. They are doing exceptionally well. And that's something that we should take pride in and, pat ourselves on the back that we are doing something right. And from here on, we can only build from here and develop better. I was actually very excited that the graduandi dinner was done here. And when I was looking at the outputs, I was like, so Velcom is in a mine, so it's not just in a mine area, but there are rare minerals there that need to be harvested and, polished and made sure that we shine through everything. And today it's commitment from my side that deals with partnerships, that we promote our Welcome campus. I know when I present CUT, I say, CUT has 2 campuses. There's one in this, and you know why that one is good? There's mines there. And then we have these kinds of program, and this is how good it is. And not saying this campus is another or a sister campus, but it's a CUT campus just based in Velpo. That's the only difference. And I know Stefan and myself are going to work very hard to ensure that now we have students that come on mobility here. We'll rope in my colleague Martina Moss in doing that. This program is themed, and I want to challenge us here. It says that the future of universities and the university of the future. I believe CUT falls in that. And I believe we are making strides to be a university of the future. So us bringing Prof. Uli and the celebrations here, and David here, and our students traveling. And now I'm challenging the staff. Prof. Uli, Stefan, I think there is opportunity for us colleagues to be hosted at Aalen. We're teaching a stint, do sabbatical. The DVC teaching and learning came to me and said, I need to go to all the partner universities. I'm on sabbatical starting from June next year. And I said, okay, Prof, I'll come up with a proposal for you, and then we'll work out an itinerary. But this is showing that we are evolving beyond student mobility. Now let's really embark on staff mobility. And I know my colleague works very hard in making sure that information is disseminated to Welcome also, because you started the precedence. You are sending more students. Now when we say we want staff members to travel, we expect Welcome people to travel and say they are going to take up the opportunity. And we have quite a number. We have Defnum Kizo, who has left Welcome. We have yes, and we have Aalen. We have Tasi that came from the Welcome campus. So, and now we have someone from the Welcome campus doing a master's in Sweden, a PhD in Sweden.
Yeah, it is Miss
Willa.
Willa. Yeah.
So there is pockets of excellence. Let's just increase them. And this is our commitment to continue saying we are here. We want to celebrate. Me and Stefan have big shoes to fill. So I told a story. Someone said, who's a mentor, don't always think that you have big shoes. And someone, you have very big shoes to fill. Tell them, I have my own shoes. They left with their shoes. I walk in my shoes. But now I think more than ever, Stefan, it's showing us that indeed we have big gaps to fill. And we are fortunate that Prof. Uli is still here, and the other institutional memory is still here. So they're going to lead us into the next 20 years. And then hopefully they'll be coming in their walking sticks to celebrate with us. And then we'll do another 20 years beyond that. So colleagues from our side, use us, abuse us, contact our office, contact Stefan whenever you want to do something in Aalen. When you are in Europe, the beauty of Europe is you can take a train there to there and be in 20 different countries just by using the train. Use that. Our office has a mechanism that supports you when you are in a conference in Austria, which is very close to Germany and Aalen. Tell us, and then we'll say, okay, we'll give you a few rands, cross over. Go see our colleagues at Aalen, like Prof. Lewis was saying. He was in Munich for a conference. And I said, no, you cannot be in Germany, especially the Baden region, and not go to our partners. That's impossible. And he went. So this is us extending. Please, up until such a time, Stefan says, and the international office at Aalen, please stop sending people. Let us go and populate Aalen and make Aalen South African and CUT. So with that said, colleagues, we're going to have lunch at 12. We are doing, they're going to set up now, so I think 12:30. You can start lunch without us, as we are going to see this campus that I love showcasing so much, and then we'll come back to join you. So thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you. And also can I extend a thank you to Pelo from my office and Medzing. These are the two people that drove this process and made sure that we succeeded. and made sure that we are here today. So if you can give them a hand of applause. So thank you, Mepule. We are at your disposal. Take us around campus, and colleagues, please join us for dinner or lunch. Yes, let's do dinner. Can I sleep over? Oh, I have something for you.
I also know good songs in my life.
Oh, can we take a group picture outside?
Yes. Yeah.